For the second day in a row, I get to do exactly what I want to do at this channel. Yes, fire sneakers. And yesterday it was this one right here, and that was the Swoosh Mart, which is all about chicken that you can buy at the convenience stores, especially here in Tokyo, Japan, with that removable upper to reveal stuff down below. And then here we are today with this Air Max 90, and this is all about rice balls, or as they call them here in Japan, onigiri. And they're totally different sneakers. The only similarity is the fact that they're both Air Max 90s, but their construction, their design, their colorway, everything about them is completely different, but they're both based in Japan, and there are 2 of 3 sneakers that I'm going to be bringing you over the next couple of weeks. The third one being an Air Max 95 Tokyo, which I'm looking forward to bringing to you guys too. So with that being said, we're going to get into this and have a look at this one today. Now, it's very different, like I said, from yesterday's sneaker, although there are a couple of little things that are the same. But basically, you go to the convenience store, you buy yourself some fried chicken from the store clerk, or get some onigiri from the counter, and they're just, the shoes are brilliant, they're absolutely fire, and I can bring you some insight that only people in Japan may be able to bring you about what's going on up there on the tongue, where there's some very unique Japanese written in a very special and ancient way. So we'll get into that all today as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Max 90 Onigiri, or is it rice ball? This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel days.毎日アップするので、毎日見てください every single day. From Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And like I said, today we're in the second of 3 Air Maxes that are tied very closely to Tokyo, where I live and have lived for more than 20 years. And I can bring you that insight to this shoe about that ancient writing that's at the top of the tongue on there, and also a little take on the little elements and design elements of the shoe. But of course, on top of all that is it's just a sneaker, and it's a fire sneaker. What I do every single day is take you through sneakers and look at the different points that make them a little bit special, a little bit above what's normal out there, and this guy definitely fits that bill. March the 19th drop date projected alongside the same day as yesterday's shoe, that Swoosh Mart that we already talked about, with the yellow and white removable upper, or semi-removable, not the whole upper, just certain parts on that. Whereas today's shoe does have some pull in there, just like yesterday had open on some parts, but the pull on these shoes doesn't actually mean anything other than just telling you what's going on in the shoe. It doesn't serve a function to like remove the upper like yesterday's shoe. So we're going to get into that today, and I'm going to give you the biggest piece of news straight at the start. I know it's, supposedly I'm supposed to build up to that and keep you guys interested as long as possible about this ancient writing at the top of the tongues, but I'm just going to dive in and do that first. Then we'll get into some more elements on the shoe about where that onigiri and rice comes into it, and then finally the hits on the shoe just make it a great looking shoe. So first things first, that ancient writing. So we're up on the tongues here. Hopefully I've been able to find a way to give you a great look at it. I think what I'll be able to do is sort of start high and pan down so that I can fit it all on the screen here. Remember the picture that I was thinking about, and I wouldn't be able to fit it on the screen the way I wanted to if I didn't do it this way. So hopefully what you've been looking at is the top of the tongues where it says pull 1, and that number 1 will become important later, and I'll explain why it's there, because there's a pull 2 and a pull 3 later, which all go together for your onigiris. But let's stick with what we've got today. We've got that pull 1 at the top of the tongues, and then you come down that to the Nike branding on here. Now what that says, I don't know if you know this, but what it says is Nike in one column and then Air Max in the other column. But there's 2 things that are special about it. One is that Japanese writing is traditionally done top to bottom, whereas Western writing or English writing is usually done left to right. So instead of being horizontal, it's vertical, which is reflected here, very traditional. But the really big point is actually the first letter of the Air Max. So if we look very closely, you're seeing that the first line on the left says Nike or Nike, and then the second line on the right says Air Max. Now the first letter in that Air Max is the key to all of this. Usually these characters you're looking at here are called hiragana. There's also katakana and kanji, and even an alphabet called romaji. There's kind of 4 alphabets here in Japan, and there's thousands of letters in the alphabet. And what you're looking at here is hiragana, but it's very special because of that first letter in the second column, which is the in air, and it's written in the ancient traditional way. Not many people can read that. I can read it because of something I do for my work called Karuta, and in it they use that letter because it reflects the traditions of Japan, the traditional beginnings of the alphabet, that hiragana alphabet. But not many people would be able to tell you that actually says eh, and they'll be confused by that letter. It's a very ancient take on the letter. In the sort of modern alphabet, it doesn't look like that at all. So, and also when they have words like ea, max, which are clearly pulled from another language, Nike, ea, max, they usually write it in one alphabet, which is called katakana, but what they've written it in here is the ancient form of hiragana. So it's very respectful, and it's very traditional and a different take than you normally see it. Now, there have been other shoes. I wonder if I'll be able to find them. I don't know if this will work out or not. If it doesn't, I apologize. But there was a Jordan 3 that had an interesting thing going on the heel with Japanese writing, and that will give you the the katakana, Nike, or I think it is, that you'll be able to see. And then we can compare that to that tongue branding up there, and you see that it's a different alphabet completely. So that's the ancient take on it. That's the bit, and I'm not sure how many people will be able to go that deep with that bit of writing up there. Of course, a lot of people say Japanese writing at the top. They might even be able to say that it says Nike Air Max, but I don't know if they're able to give you that little bit of background on the fact that it's actually the ancient traditional hiragana alphabet, which they normally wouldn't write this branding in. So little look into the shoe there. Let's jump into the second bit, which I said was all about those pulls on there. So we have that pull one at the top of the tongue there, and then what we'll do is I'll quickly look across and have a look at the top of the laces just short of the aglets. You can see it says pull 2 and pull 3, and that represents the onigiri. Onigiri usually come in these triangles, and what you have to do, and I've never worked it out in 20 years, how sad is that, is you're meant to pull different parts on the wrapping in order. Pull this one first, and then this 2 and this 3, and it sort of all pops off and leaves the seaweed wrapped around the rice bowl on the inside, and then you can eat it as is your pleasure. But I've never been able to get it right. It always falls apart in my hands, and I end up with a big mess in the street. So that pull 1, pull 2, and pull 3 is about how you take the wrapping off of a rice ball or an onigiri to reveal the meal, the food inside, without actually damaging it. And that's kind of the design element of the shoe. There are a couple of other design elements of the shoe, but we'll get into that right now as we look at all the hits on the shoe as well. So first things first, what I want to do is I think I'll start high and work my way around the shoe. So we'll go up to the lacing system. Yesterday with those swoosh marks up there in that lacing system, those classic kind of Air Max sort of style designs in those 2 panels, high and low on the laces. That was bright, this pop in silver to represent the tongs for picking up the chicken. But here today, instead, it's a much more translucent, toned back affair, and you've got a semi-translucence about it, which totally goes against what yesterday's silver element was on there. And then down from that, we get to that kind of aqua blue swoosh, and below that you've got the mudguard that kind of represents rice, not as full-on rice as the insole that we'll get into in a minute, but it represents rice on the mudguard, and right in the middle of that, the branding panel with Air Max in red. Now, love it. I think it's a really nice colorway. It all complements this stuff. Really, really nice, very beautiful looking shoe. But to me, it doesn't say rice ball, not at all. The light blue should really be a dark green to represent seaweed. Grey should really be white to represent the rice. And even the rice on that mudguard there, it kind of looks like almost digital camouflage rather than actually rice. And then you've got that red hit of branding in the branding panel. It all looks beautiful and really, really works, but I just don't see rice balls in there at all. And that's the same for the heels. So if we go over and have a look at the heels, you can see the red branding on the back there again. The only thing I could think about was maybe salmon. That you've got your triangle of rice that's wrapped in the seaweed, and in the middle of that triangle of rice, you have the flavoring, whether it's tuna or salmon or even peach and plum is common as well. So it could be the salmon, it could be the red hit of the flavoring that's at the center of the rice ball. But to me, it just doesn't fit the story of the shoe. But park that, doesn't matter what it's called, it's just a great looking shoe, and it's even great looking at the bottom of them. So have a look at the outsole here, and you get an idea of what's going on down there with that semi-translucent icy blue outsole. It's a bit more than icy blue, a bit too much blue to be icy, I suppose, but it's a great look through, and finishing the shoe off down low with this a beautiful way to put an outsole on these guys. Anything with sort of translucent outsoles is, for me, whether it's a solid like clear translucence or a semi-translucence like this, is always an absolute winner on the shoes. So big fan of that. And then the last thing to do is to take a look at something that's not on the shoe, but in the shoe. Here's the insoles pulled out, and hopefully it's showing up enough on the green screen here so you can see, A, the branding is different on the left and the right shoes and their insoles, and then B, it's all rice on the inside of those guys, whereas yesterday it was orange with the tongs in there. Today it's just all the rice. And like I said about the mudguard, this detail on the insole is much more rice compared to that mudguard as far as I'm concerned on the outside. And then have a look at the whole shoe back out. Like I said, park all the stuff about the design, forget about all that elements of the onigiri and the pool 1, 2 and 3 and stuff like that. Great colorway, looks absolutely beautiful, got ancient Japanese text at the top of the tongue. You can't go far wrong with that. So it's a great shoe to be the middle shoe of this triumvirate of 3 Japanese-centric Air Maxes. And like I said, number 3 is the Air Max 95 Japan, I think it is. I don't think it's Tokyo, I think it's Japan. But that comes out in about a week or 10 days after these 2 Air Max 90s. So not sure if I'll do that video tomorrow or if maybe I'll do it in a few days and do some other videos in between. But for now, this is part 2 of these 3 Air Maxes about Tokyo and Japan. Hopefully you guys are appreciating that and looking forward to the next one. For now though, it's time for me to do what I do at the end of every single video, which is to remind you that I do this every single day. And because of that, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.